The sound of muffled cries echoed faintly down the empty hallway of Ridgewood High. No one heard them. Or maybe no one wanted to. Inside the girls' bathroom, 3 older students had cornered Emily, the quietest girl in her sophomore class. Her books were scattered on the floor, her bag turned inside out, and her trembling hands clutched the sink as the bullies dragged her toward the stalls. "Come on, Mouse," sneered Jessica, the ringleader, yanking Emily by the arm. "Let's see if you can hide in here the way you hide in class." Emily's heart pounded. She had always been painfully shy, barely speaking even when called on by teachers. Her silence made her an easy target, and for weeks the bullying had escalated, from whispered insults to cruel pranks. But this was different. They had locked the door behind them. What no one at Ridgewood knew was that just across the street, inside an abandoned warehouse, a SWAT team was running live drills. Among them was Captain Daniel Brooks, Emily's father. He had served the city for nearly 2 decades, leading tactical units into the most dangerous situations. But in Emily's eyes, he was just Dad, the man who made pancakes on Sundays and who always said, "You don't need to be loud to be strong." Inside the bathroom, Jessica pushed Emily toward a stall, her laughter echoing cruelly. "Maybe we should cut that long hair of yours. Bet you'll look even more pathetic." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but fear locked her throat. She whispered, "Please, stop." That whisper was enough for another student, Sarah, a quiet freshman who had been washing her hands when the bullies stormed in. She froze, fear written all over her face. Then, with shaking hands, she slipped out unnoticed, running down the hall toward the main office. But instead of finding a teacher, she spotted a group of armored men jogging across the street during a training break. "Help!" she shouted, waving frantically. "They're hurting her," inside the school bathroom. At first, the men hesitated. Was this a prank? But when Captain Brooks heard the words, his chest tightened. "Which bathroom?" he demanded. "The East Wing," Sarah cried. Daniel didn't wait for protocol. He sprinted across the street, his team on his heels, every second stretching like an eternity. The thought of Emily, his little girl, trapped and scared, fueled every step. Back inside, the bullies had shoved Emily against the wall, one of them pulling at her hair. She whimpered, trying to push them away. "Stop, please." The door burst open with a force that shook the hinges. 4 heavily armed SWAT officers stormed inside, their voices booming.
"Hands off! Step away now!"
The bullies froze, their faces draining of color. Jessica stammered, we were just." But the sight of Captain Brooks rushing past the officers cut her short. "Emily," he called, his voice breaking. He reached her in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. She clung to him, sobbing, her small body trembling against his vest. The room fell silent except for her cries. The bullies, suddenly stripped of all their power, stood like statues, fear replacing their cruelty. One of the SWAT officers secured the scene, pulling the terrified bullies aside. "You think this is a game?" he growled. "Dragging someone against their will is assault. Do you know how serious this is?" But Daniel didn't look at them. His entire focus was on Emily. He cupped her face gently. "You're safe now. Sweetheart, I've got you." For Emily, it was the first time she realized the depth of her father's words. He wasn't just strong because of the gear he wore, or the team he led. He was strong because he showed up, because he fought for those who couldn't. Later that day, after statements were taken and the bullies were escorted to the principal's office, facing suspension and possibly more, Emily sat quietly beside her father in the car. Her hands still shook, but there was a new light in her eyes. "Dad," she whispered. I couldn't say anything. I froze." He turned to her, his expression soft. "You don't have to be loud to be strong, Emily." Strength isn't about shouting back. Sometimes it's just about surviving, about holding on until help comes. And today, you were stronger than you know. She leaned her head against his shoulder, tears slipping down her cheeks. But I don't want to stay silent anymore. I want to stand up for myself, even if my voice shakes. Daniel's chest swelled with pride. That's my girl, and you won't be standing alone. Not anymore. In the weeks that followed, Emily's life slowly began to change. With her father's encouragement, she started speaking up in class, one word at a time. Sarah, the freshman who had run for help, became her first real friend. And though the scars of that day would take time to heal, Emily carried something new within her. A quiet courage that could not be taken away. And as for the bullies, their punishment served as a harsh lesson. Cruelty might feel powerful in the shadows, but it crumbles when faced with true strength. Emily's story spread quietly through the school. Not just about how a SWAT team had stormed the bathroom, but about how a shy girl found her voice. And though Emily still wasn't the loudest person in the room, she no longer hid in silence. She knew now that even whispers could hold power, and even the quietest heart could roar when it mattered most.